Howdy folks, welcome back. We are continuing on in section 12.1. So we just got done looking at stem and leaf displays. So now we're going to transition into bar graphs, pie charts, and line graphs. So we've kind of hinted at these before, but we haven't formally defined them. So let's just take a look and see what the differences are. So these are all more ways to summarize and analyze data. Bar graphs are similar to histograms, but work with separate individual bars, either vertically or horizontally. So this is a major difference between bar graphs and histograms. Histograms are usually only vertical and their bars are always touching each other. But we can see from our example here, our bar graphs, we have those bars. Sometimes the bars touch when there's multiple instances or multiple data sets that are being described on the same graph, same diagram, but there's also those spaces in between. So major difference between bar graphs and histograms. And likewise, bar graphs can work horizontally too, so the bars might look totally different. What else do we have? Pie charts usually deal with percentages, and each piece of the pie is proportional in size to its percentage. So we're going to see an example how we can create our own by hand, and what are some little tips that you can use to help do that. Next, we got the line graphs, which are similar to frequency polygons, but can often have instances of multiple lines on a single chart and are not closed. So that's the other big difference. And we can see here, we have a line graph that just kind of floats in space. There's no closure to it. There's no lines on either end to close it off like a frequency polygon. So make sure you know those differences. So we're going to do some examples of just how we can read some bar graphs to start. So we have the following example. So we got key U.S. economic indicators. We have the gross domestic product, the unemployment rate, and the consumer price index over various numbers of years. So a lot of these are just asking some, what do you observe when you look at these graphs? So for the first one, it just wants to know about what was the gross domestic product in 2014. Now, what other indicators would help with this is, some coloring. So, and we can see that this is all grayscale, but normally you would have probably diagrams with color. So, but in this case, just make sure you're in the right graph. So gross domestic product was the first one, and they want to look at 2014. So 2014 is going to be this third bar. So if we go up and take a look, we can see it's kind of in the middle between these two lines. So let's just verify what those are. So we can see that this one's 18,000. The one two below it is 16,000. So we can kind of guess that this should be 17,000 in between. So again, third bar, where it looks like we're about halfway between. It's kind of hard to see, but if we zoomed in a little bit more, we might be able to see it. Let's just see if we can zoom in a little bit more. And yeah, it looks like it's about halfway between 18,000 and 17,000. So we're pretty confident in saying it's 17,500. So let me zoom back out a little bit. So we got 17,500. But now the most important part is, what are the units? And that goes back to looking at the chart. So we can see we got the years across the bottom. That's pretty clear. But what do we have on this side? What are all these numbers representing? And that's where you have to read the label. So billions of current dollars. So this is billions of dollars. So we want to make sure that we put those units in there. So we'll get the dollar symbol in there, and we can just add the word billion, and that should take care of it. So 17.5 billion, 17,500 billion dollars. So that's really in the trillions if we wanted to translate it, but this is good enough in my book. So 17,500 billion dollars. Done. All right. By what amount did the unemployment rate decrease from 2015 to 2017? Well, so let's take a look. 2015 and 2017. So it does go down. So they just want to know how much it went down by. So we got to first get a good approximation for what these bars are up to. So again, if we zoom in a little bit more, we can kind of see, all right, so we're between 5 and 6 on 2015. Now the halfway point, I like to use the halfway point as a reference. So we can kind of see that that line is halfway between the 6 and the 5. So it's a little bit closer to that line than it is to the 5. So I'm going to say probably about 5.3, maybe 5.25 if you want to be really technical, but 5.3 is pretty good. So I'm just going to write that above it, 5.3. All right, so we also need 2017. So let's do that halfway point again. So halfway is about there. So again, halfway between 4 and 5, and it's pretty close to that 4.5, but it is under it. So I'm going to say that's about 4.4. 4.4. All right, so let's zoom back out a little bit. And so now, again, just to make sure we know what the units are, make sure you read the side. So percent of all civilian workers. All right. So 2015 was 5.3%, and 2017 we said was 4.4%. So our answer would be 5.3 minus 4.4, which is 0.9%. So 0.9%. All right, now the last question looks kind of similar to the previous one, but there is a subtle difference, which we'll see as we go through it. So over the 6-year period, about what was the greatest change in the consumer price index and when did it occur? So the greatest change. Now, you might be thinking it's similar to what we did here. We're going to have to look at those 2 years, or look at a pair of years from one year to the next and see when it changed the most. So we can see that, we have a change here, we have a little bit bigger change on the downside here, change there, and then we got a big change here, and these two bars, there's no change between those. Now, be careful. Let's read what the units say. Percent change from the previous year. So this is where it's different. We don't have to subtract anything for this problem. We just need to know what the tallest bar is. So in the tallest bar, we do have a choice of looking at 2016, 2017, because they look the same. But let's just get a sense of how tall those bars actually are. So we'll do our same little trick. Now this one starts at 2.0 and it goes to 2.5. Now, the halfway point would be about 2.25, but it's quite a bit lower than that. So I would almost say that looks like 2.1. 2.1%. So let's zoom back out. And so we're saying 2.1% in 2016. And if we wanted to, we could actually say 2017 as well. But again, that's the greatest change. The greatest change. And this one is just reading the bar because percent change from the previous year. So that should be your answer. All right, we're going to stop there and we'll pick up the rest of this in the next video. See you soon.